It's been 78 years since Disney last showcased Dumbo's Great Adventure. Disney Dumbo Classic animated version was publicly released on 1941, while the modern live-action remake was released on 2019. So it's safe to say that the live-action remake was very long overdue. Dumbo is the movie of a young circus elephant born with comically oversized ears. Dumbo is made up to dress like a clown to perform dangerous stunts in the circus. But he soon becomes the main attraction when he discovers that his enormous ears actually allow him to fly, and he astounds everybody at the circus with his new talent. The 1941 classic animated version was produced by Walt Disney Productions. It is based upon the storyline written by Helen Eberson and Harold Pearl. The live-action remake version was directed by Tim Burton and published by Walt Disney Productions in 2019. Both versions of Dumbo are filled with obvious and subtle similarities and differences of American cultures and values. In this video, we are going to explore that how Disney portrayed American cultures and values through both versions of Dumbo. Also, we are going to compare and contrast the similarities and differences of American cultures and values reflected in both versions of Dumbo. So, let's get started. When we talk about the circus, we can easily notice that there are some similarities and differences of the circus from both versions of Dumbo. The circus from both versions of Dumbo share the same similarity in the way that many species of animal all appeared in the circus. We can see them whether in the circus train or during the circus performances. And during the circus performances, we can see that both versions of Dumbo use human and animals to perform the show. But we can also notice some differences. First, the main role in the performance of the original version is animal. But in the remake version, human role becomes more visibly significant as we can see many acrobats perform the show. Another difference is that at the end of Dumbo original version, animals are still captivated in the circus train as they have to perform in other places. But in the remake version, every animal was freely released. Dumbo and his mother were shipped to their home. The circus performance is no longer use animal to perform the show. Human is the only role to perform the show. At this point, you may wonder what is the reason that makes the circus from both versions of Dumbo different. Here is the explanation. The reason that makes the circus of both versions of Dumbo different is the establishment of an organization called People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, or PETA. PETA is an organization committed to ending abusive treatment of animals in business and society. PETA was founded in 1980, about 40 years later after the original Dumbo was released. As the original version of Dumbo was released before the establishment of PETA, we still can see Dumbo, his mother, and other animals being transported and captivated in the circus train. Because there was no organization to call out to stop animal abuse at that time, which is very contrast to the live-action remake version, where all animals were freely released. Dumbo and his mother were shipped to their home in nature, and no animals are used to perform in the circus show anymore. So now let's move on to the next element, which is head etiquette. Head etiquette is another American culture. It is considered as the good manner of people, not only in the United States of America, but also in many countries around the world. Wearing hat has been considered a fashionable trend since the past time. Taking off hat in different events is a respectful manner that people concern. People take off their hats in many situations. For example, taking off hat when entering someone's house, taking off hat to greet people, taking off hat at the funeral, taking off hat when inside the building, or taking off hat when national anthem is played. So let's see how Disney portrayed hat etiquette in both versions of Dumbo. In the original version, there are some obvious scenes showing hat etiquette in different events. For example, this man takes off his hat to greet people on the street. And this man takes off his hat when he is inside the building. And now let's find out how Disney portrayed hat etiquette in the remake version. You can see that this man takes off his hat when he is entering someone's house. And this group of people take off their hats to show respect when someone died. We can see that hat etiquette is still portrayed in both versions of Dumbo in different events. And the reason is that hat etiquette is always considered as a good manner that people always concern. And that's why we still see hat etiquette being portrayed in both versions of Dumbo. The next point that reflects American cultures and values is the establishment of Motion Picture Association film rating systems. Motion Picture Association film rating system is a system of movie ratings that was created in 1968 for parents to use as a guide to determine the appropriateness of the film's content. As Motion Picture Association film rating system was created in 1968, which is 27 years later, after the original Dumbo version was released. From this reason, we can see many inappropriate contents for children in the original version of Dumbo. So let's see what are they. First is the drinking booze scene. The original version showed Dumbo and his friend drinking booze, and both of them later hallucinated pink elephants parade. But in the remake version, there is no drinking booze scene. Dumbo still imaged pink elephants parade, but it is his imagination when he was watching Bubble Show. Drinking booze scene was not appear in the movie, as the remake version was released after Motion Picture Association film rating system was created. So the inappropriate contents of the movie are already filled out before publishing the movie. Race and racism in the movie is another thing that reflects American culture and value. Race and racism scene in Dumbo original version was a controversial issue. There was a scene that a group of crowds have exaggerated stereotypical black voices. To best clarify this, there was a crowd named Jim Crow, the leader of the group. Jim Crow was actually a theater character and a racist depiction of African Americans in the past, and Disney put this theater character in Dumbo original version. This character in Dumbo original version was narrated by white American musician who tried to exaggeratedly intimate black people accent. That's why it's considered as racism.
Them city folks is show in for a surprise.
But when it comes to the remake version, this scene is not appeared because the content is not appropriate for children. So this content was filled out before the movie was released. I can say that both versions of Dumbo are uniquely amazing in its own way. The ways that Disney portrayed the content through both versions of Dumbo make these two versions of Dumbo uniquely different. But if I have to choose only one version, I will definitely choose the remake version. And the reason is that the remake versions show more positive point of views towards the society. Moreover, the remake version raises awareness about animal life and racism, which are very important in the present time. But by saying this doesn't mean the original version is not good. The original version, in my opinion, is one of the best movies that we can learn how people and how our societies were in the past. We learn to improve ourselves and our societies, and we learn from the mistakes we made in the past in order to make the brighter future.